Have you ever felt like you're, I don't know, just reading from a script someone else handed you?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, you know exactly the feeling I'm talking about. You wake up, you hit your marks, you say your lines, and you go to sleep.
Right.
And it's comfortable. It's undeniably safe. But deep down, like just sitting there in the back of your mind, there is this creeping suspicion that you didn't actually write any of this.
You're just playing a part.
Exactly. So today, we are exploring what happens when that script finally cracks.
And the way we are exploring that today is through a truly, um, just a fascinating pairing of sources. We're looking at material from Tarot by Hisi.
Oh, nice.
Specifically, yeah,
Hmm.
specifically covering the week of July 13th through the 19th, 2026. But what makes this deep dive so entirely unique is that the source material gives us two lenses for the same exact energy,
Two lenses, meaning.
meaning it pairs a highly detailed astrological forecast with a profoundly intricate companion sci-fi story. And that story is called The Cracks Between the Stars.
I just have to say, pairing technical astrology with a galactic narrative about destiny versus free will, it's such a compelling way to process information.
It really
It
is.
takes these abstract cosmic concepts and gives them a heartbeat, you know?
It really does. And to set the framework for our deep dive right up front, the mission here is not to try and predict the future.
Right.
In fact, both the astrology and the narrative make it very clear that our assumptions about how the future arrives are usually just wrong.
We think it's going to be huge.
Exactly. We tend to think the future announces itself with this chaotic explosion or some grand, undeniable cinematic event. But these sources suggest the exact opposite.
The opposite.
Yeah. The future arrives as a glitch. It shows up as a sudden, tiny flaw in our carefully rehearsed routines.
Okay, let's unpack this because
Let's
I
un-
want to understand how a glitch actually manifests in real life. The astrology source points to a specific alignment to kick things off. Venus square Uranus. But before we get into what that means for us, can you just translate the mechanics of that? What is a square actually doing up in space?
Absolutely. So in astrology, a square is when two planets are at a 90-degree angle to one another from our perspective on Earth.
Okay.
Imagine you are driving through an intersection and another car is coming at you from a perpendicular street. You both want to move forward, but you are at cross purposes.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, that 90-degree angle creates friction, tension, and a real demand for action. Someone has to yield, or there's a crash.
Got it. So it's an astrological traffic jam.
That's a great way to put it, exactly. And in this specific intersection, you have Venus. Venus governs our sense of comfort, our relationships, what we value.
Okay.
And coming from the other direction, you have Uranus. Uranus is the planet of sudden upheaval, rebellion, and basically breaking the rules.
So comfort meets rebellion.
Precisely. So when they square off, you get this immense restless friction. The outdated structures of your life are suddenly interrupted. You might feel this sudden, completely irrational urge to change a deeply ingrained habit. Or you might find yourself fiercely resisting anyone who tries to tell you what to do.
That makes total sense. And honestly, it perfectly sets up the inciting incident in our sci-fi companion story.
Oh, it really does.
But I want you to walk us through this because the world building in the cracks between the stars is incredible. It takes this idea of comfort versus rebellion and dials it up to a planetary scale.
It does. So the story takes place on a planet called Colaris. And on Colaris, history isn't written as they go. It is rehearsed.
Rehearsed.
Yeah. Every single citizen is born with what they call threads of accord. These are literally glowing threads woven just beneath their skin.
Just the imagery of that is wild.
It's beautiful but creepy, right? And these threads dictate every single choice a person will ever make. They tell you who you are going to love, what profession you'll take up, the exact parameters of the grief you're allowed to feel.
Wait, they mandate your grief.
Yes, and even the precise day you are going to smile for the very last time.
Which is terrifying. But the leadership of this planet, the keepers, they don't see it as a prison. They call it harmony, right?
Right.
Because by removing choice, they managed to end every war and eliminate all crime.
Yes, they did. But, as the text points out, the poets of Colaris have a different word for it. They call it forgetting.
Forgetting.
Because while the threads ended every war, they also ended every surprise. It's the ultimate illusion of safety. Think about how appealing that actually sounds on a really stressful day.
Oh, I mean, totally.
You never have to lay awake at night agonizing over whether you made the wrong choice with your career or your partner, because the concept of choice doesn't even exist.
It's like living your entire life on a highly advanced, mandatory autopilot.
Precisely. And that is where that restless Venus-Uranus energy enters the narrative through our protagonist. Her name is Nyari.
Okay, Nyari.
Nyari is an inventor, but she doesn't invent new gadgets. Her job is to repair impossible, ancient things like broken gravity wells. Right. And one day, the glitch arrives in her workshop. A compass suddenly points down instead of north. Mechanical birds start flying backward.
Just totally malfunctioning.
Yeah. And the oldest object in her entire shop, a cracked lantern recovered from a dead civilization, starts laughing.
Wait, just a physical audible laugh coming from an inanimate object?
Yes. Haunting, right. And right as this is happening, the planet's council delivers Nyari's newest thread of accord. The thread dictates that she must abandon her inventing and become an archivist.
A desk job.
Basically. So she looks at the glowing thread, and for the first time in planetary history, the thread simply cracks.
Wow.
Golden light seeps out. No alarm sounds. The text has this beautiful line. It says, "The future had arrived quietly, not as an explosion, as a flaw."
You know, I was thinking about this idea of the flaw or the glitch, and the best way I can conceptualize it is like when your car's GPS glitches out.
Okay. Yeah.
You're on your usual commute, it's totally safe, you could drive it with your eyes closed, but suddenly the screen scrambles and reroutes you.
Right.
At first, you are intensely annoyed. You're gripping the steering wheel, frustrated that you've been forced off this secure path.
Because it's inconvenient.
Exactly. But then the glitch accidentally routes you through this beautiful, undiscovered canyon that you never would have known existed. The glitch forces you to stop rehearsing your drive and actually pay attention to the road.
That is a phenomenal analogy because it highlights that the glitch doesn't immediately fix your life, it just wakes you up.
Right.
But once you are awake, you have to figure out what to do next. And that is where the source material transitions us from this sudden, shocking glitch into a period of deep internal recalibration.
Okay.
Astrologically, this is represented by a new moon in Cancer, sitting conjunct to Mercury retrograde.
Okay, I need another translation here, please. What does that actually feel like for us on the ground?
Well, the moon in astrology governs our emotional foundations and our deepest internal needs. Cancer is the sign most closely associated with the concepts of home, safety, and emotional security. A new moon is always a reset point, a beginning. But because it is sitting right next to Mercury, the planet of communication and thought, while Mercury is moving backward, or retrograde, this is not an outward, explosive new beginning.
So it's not about taking big action.
No, not at all. It is a deeply introspective internal audit. It asks us to reevaluate our foundational definitions of what genuinely makes us feel safe.
And the sci-fi story mirrors this internal audit beautifully. Because after her thread cracks, Nari doesn't immediately grab a weapon and start a planetary revolution.
Right, she doesn't.
She retreats. She travels completely alone to a place called the Sea of Memory.
And at the Sea of Memory, the tide literally carries the forgotten voices of the past. As Nari stands on the shoreline, she doesn't hear the voice of a great historical leader.
No.
She hears her own voice. Specifically, she hears the voice of the child she used to be, the version of herself she had to abandon to fit into the council's script.
And the dialogue here is just gut-wrenching. Her own childhood voice echoes out of the water and says, "You stopped building impossible things because everyone clapped when you built useful ones."
Oh, it's a devastating realization.
It really is. Because how many of us have done exactly that? We trade our actual messy potential for the applause of being useful or predictable.
So many of us.
And then the sea delivers what I honestly think is the most important quote of this entire deep dive. It says, "Safety purchased with betrayal is only another prison."
Wow.
I literally had to put my notes down and just stare at the wall for a minute after reading that.
It forces a very uncomfortable mirror onto the listener. Because we have to ask ourselves, where are we over-rehearsing our own lies just to maintain the illusion of safety?
Right.
How many people are sitting in a job they actively despise, or staying in a relationship that has been dead for years simply because it is a known quantity?
It's familiar.
Exactly. You are betraying your own vitality just to avoid the discomfort of the unknown. You are buying safety with self-betrayal.
So once you realize you are in that prison of your own making, how do you get out?
That realization is the catalyst for the next massive energetic shift. We move from the internal realization of the new moon into this expansive, big picture energy represented by Uranus sextile Neptune retrograde.
Okay, let's break down the geometry again. What is a sextile?
A sextile is a 60-degree angle between two planets.
Okay.
Unlike the square, which causes friction and crashes, a sextile is highly cooperative. It's an angle of opportunity and flow. The planets are speaking the same language and feeding each other energy.
I like the sound of that.
Yeah, it's great. Here we have Uranus, which again is the innovator, the rule breaker, the visionary feeding energy to Neptune, which is the planet of boundless imagination, dreams, and the collective unconscious.
So innovation and imagination are essentially teaming up.
Exactly. It creates this strange, electric, highly visionary atmosphere. It basically pulls back the curtain on the illusions we've all mutually agreed to believe in.
And in the story, this is the moment the whole planet starts to wake up. Dreams literally start escaping across the galaxy.
It's such a cool image.
Yeah. Artists are suddenly painting concepts they don't even have words for. Children are speaking unevolved future languages. It's chaos, but it's a highly creative chaos.
Right.
To navigate this, Nyari puts together this incredible misfit crew, a diplomat, a hacker monk, a librarian, and she brings along that laughing lantern, and they set off to find the Lattice of Echoes.
The Lattice of Echoes is essentially the cosmic machinery of their universe. It is a structure, older than the stars themselves, designed to translate raw imagination into physical reality.
Okay.
But when Nyari's crew finally reaches it, they discover something horrific.
Yeah.
The Keepers of Kalaris haven't just been ignoring the lattice, they have been actively hijacking its energy for millennia.
They rigged it.
Yes. Instead of allowing it to create new, dynamic futures, they reverse-engineered it to endlessly preserve the past, to maintain the script of the threads.
And this brings us face to face with the main antagonist, Chancellor Vaylor, the architect of certainty.
Yes.
He is the man who built the threads. And I am so glad we were talking about this part because I actually found myself pausing here and questioning the moral of the story. Vaylor explains his reasoning to Nyari.
Right.
He says that before he instituted the threads, the galaxy was tearing itself apart. There were endless wars fought over competing, imagined futures. Entire species wiped themselves out because of limitless ambition.
It was chaos.
Yeah. He tells her, I didn't build a prison, I built a shelter. And I have to play devil's advocate for a second here.
Please do.
Isn't Vaylor kind of right? Look at our own human history. Doesn't absolute freedom, completely devoid of boundaries or certainty, usually just lead to tyranny and self-destruction? It feels like Vaylor actually solved the greatest problem of existence, and Nyari is just arrogantly undoing it because she feels a little stifled.
It is a brilliant philosophical tension, and you are entirely justified in pushing back. The story is very careful not to paint Vaylor as a cartoon villain twirling his mustache.
Right, he's not evil.
No, he is a profoundly traumatized guardian. He witnessed the horrific cost of boundless ambition, and he made the calculation that forced certainty was the only mathematical way to save everyone.
Okay.
He genuinely believes his own mantra, which is, freedom without wisdom becomes another tyranny. And for a time, he was right. The shelter was totally necessary for their survival.
Right. It's like putting a cast on a broken bone. You need that rigid, unyielding structure so the bone can fuse back together.
Exactly.
Because if you just let the arm flop around in the name of freedom, it heals crooked or it never heals at all.
That's a perfect way to look at it. But the fundamental flaw in Vaylor's logic and the trap we all fall into with our own coping mechanisms is that he never took the cast off.
Ah, right.
The planetary bone healed thousands of years ago, but the people were left encased in plaster until their muscles completely atrophied. This is the exact moment where that ancient laughing lantern chimes in.
The lantern speaks.
Yes, and it delivers what I believe is the most crucial piece of wisdom for our own lives. The lantern tells Vaylor, shelters become cages when people forget where the door is.
Wow. Shelters become cages when people forget where the door is.
Yes. And it completely shatters Vaylor's worldview. He realizes that he isn't guarding unnecessary quarantine anymore. He actually laughs with this immense, crushing relief and admits, I've been guarding an empty room.
Man.
He spent thousands of years exhausting himself to maintain these rigid rules, completely failing to realize that the citizens had long ago lost the capacity to even desire the door. They had permanently traded their imagination for a guarantee.
That shift, from seeing your life as a necessary shelter to realizing it has actually become a cage, that is massive. And it maps flawlessly onto the astrology forecast as we move toward the weekend, because we hit this monumental alignment, Uranus trine Pluto.
Yes, and we need to spend some time on this, because a trine between Uranus and Pluto is not a fleeting daily mood shift.
Right, a trine is the 120-degree angle, correct? The one that brings harmony and ease, but on a massive scale.
Correct. Trines remove obstacles and create immense momentum. But when you are dealing with outer planets Uranus, the revolutionary, and Pluto, the planet of deep psychological excavation, death, and rebirth, that momentum is tectonic.
Tectonic.
The source material notes that this specific alignment is just the first of 5 exact trines that will stretch all the way into mid-2028. We are entering a multi-year cycle of bold, societal-level transformation. It's about dismantling the inherited narratives we have all been operating under.
Narratives like what success is inherently supposed to look like, or what aging means in our society, what love should cost, whose version of reality we have been buying into without ever reading the fine print.
Exactly. It is a collective dismantling of the cages. But, as both the astrology and the sci-fi story explicitly warn, this kind of rapid deconstruction comes with a very real danger.
This is a vital point. When the old structures fall apart, people don't usually embrace the freedom gracefully.
No, they don't.
They panic. They scramble for a new cage. And the text points out that with all this wild, visionary energy floating around, it is incredibly easy to get swept up in rigid ideology. People become desperate for someone to just hand them a new script. They weaponize language to force compliance.
Which brings us to one of the most abstract and fascinating encounters in Yari's journey. Before her crew alters the lattice, they have to consult an entity known as the choir.
The choir.
But the choir isn't a group of singers. They are billions of luminous, floating intelligences woven entirely from language. Every sentence, every decree, every spoken thought in the history of the universe floats among them. Some of these sentences are capable of healing, while others have imprisoned entire civilizations.
And a diplomat in Yari's crew steps forward and asks the choir the ultimate question: what is truth?
Yes.
The choir's response is just brilliant. They say, that which remains alive after questioning.
That which remains alive after questioning. It is a mandate for rigorous discernment. And the astrology forecast echoes this exact sentiment regarding the Uranus-Neptune transit we discussed earlier.
Oh, how so?
It explicitly warns that while you must pay attention to your dreams and synchronicities right now, you absolutely cannot abandon your critical thinking. It delivers this incredible, highly quotable line. It says, "Not every download is divine. Some are just anxiety wearing a cape."
Anxiety wearing a cape. I honestly cannot get over how accurate that is. Let's dig into the psychology of that for a second.
Okay.
How often do we get a sudden gut feeling that we are convinced is some profound spiritual intuition telling us to burn our lives down? And the reality is we just haven't slept in 3 days, we're stressed about money, and we are projecting our unexamined fears onto the future.
Oh, constantly.
It is so dangerously easy to mistake a panic attack for a prophecy.
It happens all the time. Our brains are meaning-making machines. When we feel internal chaos, we immediately try to attach a profound narrative to it to make it feel purposeful.
Right.
But because of this danger, after Nyari and Valor actually loosens the lattice of echoes, effectively making destiny a suggestion rather than a mandate, chaos does indeed start to spread across Colaris. Confusion spreads right alongside the revelation.
Of course.
People are terrified of the unscripted reality.
Yeah.
So Nyari teaches her people one simple, vital question to navigate the noise: a litmus test.
And we are going to pass this litmus test directly to you listening right now. Whenever you are faced with a new ideology, a sudden urge to change your life, or a belief system demanding your allegiance, ask yourself this question: does this make you more alive or merely more certain?
I really want you to let that sit for a moment. Does this belief, this relationship, this career path make you more alive or merely more certain? Because certainty, as we've seen, is often just a rehearsed script.
Yeah.
It's the glowing thread into the skin. It's a cage masquerading as a shelter. It is safe, but it is not truly living.
Okay, so we have cracked the script, we've escaped the cage, and we've learned how to tell the difference between intuition and anxiety. But how do we actually ground all of this cosmic philosophy into something practical? Because you can't just float in a state of visionary chaos forever.
No, you can't.
We transition to the end of the week, and the astrology gives us exactly what we need: Mars sextile Saturn.
This is the critical grounding wire for the entire week. After all the world-breaking, boundary-dissolving energy of Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, Mars and Saturn step in to provide the mature, disciplined energy required to actually build a new reality.
So what are Mars and Saturn bringing to the table here?
Well, Mars is our drive, our action, our forward momentum. Saturn is structure, discipline, and time. When they form that cooperative sextile, they give us the stamina to make slow, steady, concrete progress on these new revelations.
But that slow and steady energy is operating in the shadow of something much, much bigger. You mentioned a configuration happening at the end of the week that sounds genuinely intimidating.
Yes, the Barbault Basket.
Yes, that's...
Sunday marks the beginning of an incredibly rare and potent astrological configuration.
Okay, stop right there. You're going to have to translate Barbault Basket for me. What are we actually looking at in the sky?
Visually, a basket formation occurs when all the major planets in the solar system cluster together within a specific concentrated segment of the zodiac, leaving the rest of the sky completely empty.
Oh, wow.
Imagine all the weight on a ship suddenly shifting to one side. It creates a highly focused, intense, and somewhat unbalanced concentration of energy in the collective.
So it's like taking scattered sunlight and focusing it through a magnifying glass until it starts a fire.
Exactly. And in this specific basket, you have the heavy-hitting transpersonal planets Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto intricately linking up. And next week, they, along with Jupiter, are all going to sit at exactly 4 degrees of their respective signs. This alignment is functioning like a giant cosmic laser focused on collective evolution.
And what does that translate to in plain English? Like, what are the practical effects of that laser?
The source notes that the dramatic tension driving this basket is fueled by a Jupiter-Pluto opposition. Jupiter expands whatever it touches, and Pluto rules power dynamics, the underworld, and hidden truths.
So expansion meets the underworld.
Yes. When they oppose each other, it creates a massive tug-of-war. In practical terms, we are likely to see intense grasps for power on the world stage, major legal confrontations, and profound revelations of deception. It triggers unexpected catalytic events.
That sounds intense.
It is. But on a psychospiritual level, this pressure cooker is gifting us with unprecedented access to high-level insights. It is the universe forcefully handing us the tools to rewrite the script.
And rewriting the script is exactly what the citizens of Colaris do at the end of the sci-fi narrative. They don't destroy the lattice of echoes, they just loosen its grip. Destiny stops being a mandate and becomes an invitation.
An invitation, I love that.
You start to see engineers taking advice from poets. Entire planetary economies reorganize around the concept of generosity instead of the fear of scarcity. And most importantly, the citizens completely change the way they look at their own futures. They stop asking the outdated, rehearsed question, what should I become? And they start asking, what wishes to become through me?
That subtle shift in phrasing changes everything. What should I become is inherently tied to an external script. It implies there is a correct, predetermined answer that you have to figure out to avoid failing.
Right.
But what wishes to become through me requires active listening. It requires you to act as a conduit for that visionary, imaginative energy we discussed. It demands that you stay curious, and most importantly, it demands that you stay open to the glitches.
So, to synthesize this massive deep dive, the core message from both the Tarot by High forecast and the beautiful story of Colaris is that the universe is actively trying to break the spell of your over-rehearsed life. The energy right now is one of divine interruption. You are being asked to stop treating your days like a script you didn't write. Embrace the cracks when things don't go according to plan. Ruthlessly question your inherited need for absolute certainty, and navigate the incoming chaos with profound discernment. Don't buy into every wild idea simply because it's new, but please, do not close yourself off to the impossible either.
And I want to leave you with one final lingering thought. It's a quiet detail found at the very end of the story, long after Nayar's time has passed. Travelers from across the galaxy come to visit that old, cracked, laughing lantern.
The lantern?
Yeah. And the text notes a profound realization. The universe, it turns out, never demanded perfection from us. It only ever demanded participation.
That's beautiful.
Perfection is a script. It's a glowing thread of a chord that doesn't allow for a single mistake, a single messy emotion, or a single deviation from the plan. But participation is fundamentally messy. It is a living, breathing conversation. It requires you to laugh when things break because you finally realize the break is exactly where the light gets in.
The future doesn't arrive by permission. It enters quietly through the smallest crack. Think about that laughing lantern, an object thousands of years old, literally chuckling at our strict, panicked adherence to the rules. So we leave you with this to mull over as you go about your week. What specific rule in your own life is actually just an outdated suggestion, desperately waiting for you to politely ignore it?
Thank you for joining us as we explore the cracks between the stars, the glitches in the routine, and the immense courage it takes to rewrite the script.
Keep questioning, keep participating, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.